All right, we're back. It is MAPD124. That's Advanced iOS Application Development here at Centennial in the winter 2017 semester, week 3, part 1 of our broadcast. And as I said, kind of opening up for the people that are here in the class, I want to slow things down a little bit and talk about Swift classes, Swift 3 classes today. And we're going to do some special effects with them, some minor stuff, not too crazy, which I had worked on before. Which is, I want to talk about some kind of, kind of interesting stuff that you can do with them. So what I want to do first is open up a Swift project, right? So let's open up a new Swift project. So here's Swift, and let's make a new Xcode project. Now I'm going to call it's going to be single view application again. We'll talk about other ones again. I'm going to try and cover master detail app again. I'm sure you guys have seen master detail app. Yeah? Did you guys do a master detail app? Did you guys do a page-based application yet? So I may cover some of these, tab-based, page-based, that kind of stuff. Sticker pack I'm probably not going to do, but single view application and some kind of navigator, UI navigator, I'm going to try and cover that in a different way this semester. But for now, let's go back to the single view application. It's a very good one to learn from. So I'm going to call this, of course, MAPD 124, and it's going to be the winter 2017 semester, and then lesson 3, right? Because we're on lesson 3. That's the long signature of my item. Using Swift, it's a universal device. I don't care so much about UI today. It's not that. Well, I'm not doing that too much. So I'm leaving it as universal and clicking next. So it's really, I'm going to use my application almost like a Swift playground, right? But I want to do it in an iOS application because it's not like we're just learning Swift. I'm going to click create here, and I'm also going to put it up on Git. It's not that we're doing pure Swift. I don't want you to think of it like that. We're using the iOS SDK API, right? That's what we're doing. And we're tapping into it with Swift, right? You can tap into it with Objective-C. If you really want to, you can really use C++ too, if you really want to go crazy. But for the most part, again, I'm just making a simple app. Notice, like I said, it doesn't matter. I'm just making a universal app. I'm accepting the defaults. That's why. I'm not trying to make anything different here. Now, normally what I have here is a view controller Swift, right? I don't need this part, so we always kind of delete the stuff I don't need. And I'm going to just wipe out the stuff that's in here right now, right? I'm going to keep the view did load for a second, and we'll talk about all the application lifecycle one more time. So that's one. I'm not going to really put anything on the storyboard. Storyboard is going to be nice and blank. Nothing on the storyboard yet, okay? But what I want to do is I want to immediately create an alert. As soon as you come into the app, I want to make an alert, okay? So I can't do it on view did load. Why can't I kick it off in view did load? What is view did load? When does that trigger view did load? Remember, you have to know the application lifecycle here, right? So what happens in what is the application lifecycle that we're talking about? We have a bunch of events, right? You have your app delegate.swift. In app delegate, you can see that there are some other applications that are there other events that get handled, right? Like for example, application did enter background. That's an event, right? Enters the background, something happens, right? Application will enter foreground. Application did become active. All these are just different events. This is on the app delegate side, right? And there's this one. There's the view controller side. This is what affects your actual view. So when view did load, I'm just going to put it out there to you guys. Can I put together something where when the view loads right away, and is that the right place to put it? That's the question. I want to kind of show my alert. I want to kind of do a show my alert kind of method. Can I do that? Can I kind of show an alert as soon as the view did load? Is that possible? Should I do it there? And is there another event that I should rather use? First of all, let's talk about how to do an alert, right? So remember from last day, if you actually look at the PowerPoint that I had up, it actually had a little bit about of alerts and actions at the bottom. But let's talk about a new function. So I want to make a new function here. Follow me here. Please do it with me because we're learning a little bit of Swift 3 and it's just getting along with iOS. Again, I've just made a very simple template to do this. So I'm going to use a new func. It's a new function. and I want to make a name for my function. So it's going to be, show. I don't know. We'll call it show my alert. Show my alert. Okay. This is the basic function, and I want to call show my alert when the view did load. Right. For now. Question: can I use the keyword self? Self dot show my alert, and maybe the better question is, should I use the self show my alert? Do I need to use the keyword self? What are the three things? Let's talk about, do I need to use the self keyword? And what does that refer to anyway? Not necessary, right? Why would I need to use the self keyword ever? It's like this. It's the keyword this. It gives us the class context, right? So if I go self, I could use it because it refers to this function that I just created, this method that's inside of my class. That's what it does. So I could do this, but it's not required. So you don't have to do this. Okay. Sometimes I need to do it, and I'm going to show you an instance where I need to do it. All right, coming up, we'll talk about how to do that. But let's say I want to show my alert. In the alert, when we set up an alert, okay, there's a couple things we need to do. I want to set up a instance of something called a UI alert controller. All right, so for people who've never done an alert, that's the instance that I need to set up. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. And I could use var. So I could say something like var controller, and we can call, maybe we'll just call this, we'll call this the alert controller, right? Alert controller. That's my own thing, right? A var alert controller is equal to UI alert controller. Notice if as I start typing, UI alerts, I can type properly, controller, right, here's my UI alert controller. I'm going to take away this for a second, so we don't need that, and I'll take away this. Just all we see is code right now, right? So I'm starting to do this stuff. So var alert controller is equal to UI alert controller. If I open up some of the initializers methods or the parameters, it says a couple of things like this. It says I can put a title, a message, a preferred style. That's pretty much the simple one that we can do, right? And usually we do that. We say what's my title? And the title is usually what's inside the title of the alert message, like almost like a little message box. If you know Visual Studio, and if you've done Windows Forms before, that the title is the title of the top of the message. All right. So I know I'm going slow for this one, but let's just call this, my alert. My alert. Right. That's the title. Right. And of course, when we put this in there, I have to specify the name of the parameter by putting in title. So my title is my alert, right? So keep it all, so we can see it all on one line. I'm just going to space it a little differently. And I'm going to go here after title. I want to put a comma because, again, I have other options. And the other two options that are very common, right, is message. That's the one common one, where I can say something like, I don't know, hello world. I like doing hello world a lot, right? And the other one that I want to try is the preferred. If I start typing preferred, and if what I really want to say is preferred style. So I want to kind of put up, preferred style, not preferred status bar, preferred style. And preferred style usually refers to the type of alert that I want. And I want to kind of put in alert. It's an alert type. Okay, now I got a problem. Already, I got a problem. But now it's gone away, and I've got this little problem over here. Is that a problem? It's a what? It's a warning. But it's a pretty heavy warning. It means like, hey, you've created an alert, right? Or I've created a variable that's never going to be used, right? Would this compile at this point? Yeah, it would compile. Nothing's going to be wrong with this one. Here's another question, just semantics. Should I use a let instead of a var? And why would you use a let and why would you use a var in this particular case? I know I'm being nitpicky, but there's some reasons why we do both. First of all, could I use a let in this instance? Why could I use a let? Isn't a let a constant? I don't understand. What's the difference here between using a let and a var, right? I'm never going to change the value of the alert controller, right? Okay, so remember, what I'm really doing here when I do this assignment, what am I really doing here? I'm instancing, right? I'm creating an instance of the UI alert controller, and I'm passing in several parameters into the initializer of the class, right? So this is the class UI alert controller, and I've got several parameters, and I'm initializing it or passing it into the, in other languages we call it the constructor, right? We pass it into the constructor. In other languages we use the new keyword. Here not, we don't use the new keyword. And when we do the assignment, actually we've created an object of type UI alert controller. That's what we've done. Could I explicitly go like this? Could I say alert controller, UI alert controller? Can I do that? Is that allowed in Swift? Can I do this? Actually, if you guys learned TypeScript last week, it's very similar, right? When you do typing, it's like colon and then the type, right? Same as in Swift. That's why I keep on saying thinking if Apple just made it just like almost like the same as web technologies, you guys would be experts by now, and everyone would be an Apple developer. It's very similar in some ways in terms of context, but in other ways it's not. Could I do this? The answer is yes, I could do that. Do I have to do it? No. Why? Because what Swift does is it uses type inference, right? So it tries to understand and again, I can't hover over this thing. It doesn't do anything if I hover over. How do I get code hinting for this? Is there a way of getting code hinting from my alert controller? Can I go like control space and get some kind of completion or code hinting? No, right? I can't really get any code hinting by double clicking or getting some kind of thing like that. It doesn't do that. That's not what Xcode does. In Visual Studio, you hover over something, or even in VS Code, when you're doing stuff with TypeScript, you hover over something, you get some code hinting. Not so here, right? So that's, we have to assume that the var keyword, what it does is it declares a variable of type UI alert controller because it's using type inference to figure out, the Swift compiler is trying to figure out what I'm doing here, and it's assigning UI alert controller as the type for alert controller. Okay, that's what it's done. So this is step one. So I've created an object. Is this object going to be displayed now? Is that enough for me to display it in the UI? There's a couple things I probably want to do. Maybe what I want to do is create like a little cancel button. So I want to cancel my alert. So I want to use the var keyword again, and we'll go back and try the let afterwards, right? So here's var. And I'll call this the cancel action. We actually can also call this a cancel button because that's what it's going to look like. Cancel button. And it's of type UI alert action, right? UI alert action is the new class. Again, I have a title. And I'm just going to space it out so you know all the stuff we need. We need a title. We need a style, right? And we also, this is all wrong. And we also need some kind of handler. Talk about these things. These are the three things you need when you make an action, because you're making a button. Really, that's what you're doing. And I'm doing it programmatically. So it's almost like me creating a button from scratch, but programmatically. Let's fill in the blanks here. So my title is the actual button text. That's what's going to appear on the button, right? So something like cancel, right? Oops, if I can spell. That's the first thing. And then my style, well, what kind of style is it going to be? If I press dot, this is the great thing about some code hinting you get these three styles. I can do a cancel, right? Apply a style that indicates the action cancels the operation and leaves things unchanged. Default, the default action button, right? Destructive, apply a style that indicates that the action might change or delete data, right? So those are the three different styles, right? And this actually colors the button differently, by the way. Right? Let's choose cancel. This is the style of the button. And you can also program and enhance your own by using subclassing, right? We won't handle that today. It's a little bit more advanced. So I also could make some kind of event handler here, but for now, we're going to use nil. I could do an inline object. I could put an inline object in here to handle the event that this button is going to produce, right? Because this is the button. Notice again, we're getting our warnings here because these two variables, these two objects actually, is what they are still unused. The third thing I want to do is I want to add my cancel button as a child to the alert controller, right? That's what I'm doing. And again, for people who've done this before, please forgive me. I'm just trying to fill in the blanks for people who've never done it before and they don't understand how it's being done or why it's being done. All right, so I want to do something like this. I want to talk about the alert controller. So here's my alert controller, right? And I want to go, add action. That's what I want to do. Here's my add action. Notice that it fills in the blanks for me. I need a type of action that I'm going to add. And the action is going to be called, because this is the something called an alert action. It's notice it's listening for a UI alert action. So I can just simply enter in the name of my object, which is cancel button. Okay, so that right there will add the cancel button to the alert controller. Okay, to the alert controller. And then the final thing, if everything was to go well, is what we really want to do is I want to present. And what do I want to present? The actual alert controller, right? So this is my alert controller. And please be patient with me while we do this. The alert controller, and then I want to indicate whether it's animated or not, which I'm going to say true, right? So it kind of pops up. And then on completion, when it's done, do I want another action, a callback action to happen when it's done? That's what this part is. So the last parameter is what happens upon completion, when I'm done with the button, right? When it's done presenting the button, do I want anything else to happen? And for now, the answer is no. I don't want anything to happen. All right, so we've done all this, right? And we've got pretty much everything. Notice that all the errors are going away slowly, right? I'm going to save this thing. And now this present, right? It actually has something else in front of it. You could put self.present. Why could I put self.present in here? What am I presenting anyway? Right? I'm presenting something on the UI view controller, the view controller, right? So therefore, it's really doing a built-in method. I'm using a built-in method that's built into the UI or the view controller class, which is a subset or a subclass of the UI view controller superclass, right? And what I'm doing is I'm saying, hey, present it, right? Now here's something interesting. I did call the alert controller, so this warning is not gone. And I did call the cancel button, and this warning is not gone. So what are these warnings anyway? If I kind of hover over to see what it says variable alert controller was never mutated. Consider changing to let constant. So it even tells you, hey, Tom, your coding style sucks, right? It shouldn't be a var. It should be a let, because remember that it's an object. I can still mutate the object or do something with the object by using its methods that are built into the object. I don't really have to set the value of this object to something else. I'm probably never going to do that. And so it's much faster and more efficient for the compiler to see this as a constant as opposed to a variable, which is actually heavy from a computational perspective compared to a let constant. So let's fix this problem. I'll do the same thing for this, right? Change this to let. So it kind of tells you something's wrong. I'm not really wrong, but just style. I could have left it the same. It would have compiled. But Swift tells you, hey, you know what? Something's wrong. I don't like your style. I don't think, the var should be a let. Okay, let's see what happens when I run this thing. I want to run this thing in an iPhone 6 environment. Most of us don't have iPhone 7s unless you're someone who's special, right? And I'm jealous. And let's just try this again. So I'm going to run this thing, right? Is it enough? Oh, wait. Here's my show alert. Will this do this? Will this alert? Will this show my alert? Here's my phone. Let me just bring this down a little bit. So I'm going to scale this down to 50%. And, oh, man. What happened? My app crashed is what happened. Here's my app. Look. Warning, attempting to present UI alert controller, right, whose view is not in the window hierarchy. Remember I asked you, is this the right thing? View did load. You guys talk. We have to talk about the application lifecycle, right? What triggers and when does it trigger? Who knows what the next thing that triggers is, and what does view did load actually do? Does anyone really know? Well, something to keep in mind is if I look at my storyboard, right? Notice that inside the storyboard, I have a couple things. I have my view controller. Here's my view controller. Underneath that, I have my outline for what's on my view, my top layout guide, that's this, my bottom layout guide, that's invisible down here, and the view, which is inside the middle. Those are the three things that are on there. When view did load triggers, these things haven't been drawn yet. It's just loading the view. It's loading this stuff, right? So it could be, I'm just telling you, could be that when I do my view did load, I haven't loaded my view yet, and so I'm trying to attach something that doesn't exist because I'm instantiating my view, right? And as I'm instantiating, I'm trying to add something to it, right? So it might be the wrong event for me to add things to. I'm just put it out there. Does anyone know what the event is, right? Because there's another event we can use, well, it's part of the life cycle, right, that we can use instead of this one, right? So we don't have to use this event, right? We don't have to use view did load, and it'll work perfectly fine. Does anyone understand? Does anyone have an idea of what to use? And by the way, what? You're a good man. View did appear. All right, let's try this out. So again, the same thing. We need to override it. So here's override. And I got to do func and then view. If I start typing view, sorry, lowercase view. These are all the different kinds of things that we can do. View did a layout, subviews, view will layout, subviews, view did appear, view will appear. And what's the difference between the timing between view will appear and view did appear, right? View will load, view did load. Like there is that, right? So if I look at all the different events, these are all the different kind of, if I start typing view, once you look at some of these events, some of these are the ones that that kind of trigger. So here's a bunch of view did layout, okay? What I want to use is this one, view did appear. When view did appear, that means the view has been rendered. Now I want to call things, right? And notice how it says animated bool. That's not good, right? I need to kind of pass something to the super view, right? Or the super class, right? So super, and I'm going to do something like view did appear, and I got to indicate if it's animated or not. And the answer is, we're just going to leave it like this. Now I want to move this show alert, show my alert. That's my own custom call to my alert function. I want to call that in here, right? Now, curious. So this is my my custom show my alert function. Show alert function, right? That's what it is. So here's I'm calling the alert. Will this work? Let's see if this works. And this just all I'm doing is moving it from one event when my view did load to another event when my view did appear. And again, I have to call the super constructor. Oops, I got to call the super constructor here, and then I call my function. Let's see if that works any differently. Fail succeeded. It comes up. Please don't crash. Please don't crash. Don't crash. Right? There's my alert. Did you guys do any alerts at all in first semester? Right? These are like message boxes, and I have to be warning you about this. From a style perspective, we try not to use these very often, right? Because they can be quite annoying to the user. I know when I do an alert in JavaScript, that's a bad thing. In fact, I tell all my students when I teach them JavaScript for the first time, don't do alerts, right? Just being honest. Except if there's an error. Put up an error. If there's an alert, you need someone to let them know something happened. It's going to interrupt their workflow. They can't click around this, eh? I can't touch something else and make it go away. Like it won't go away here. It is something like a modal window. And there's two different kinds of windows, right? There's a modal window and any kind of user interface infrastructure, right? Modal window and a modeless window. Modeless window you can click and work while the window's up, you can do something else. Here in this case, it's a modal window which locks your user interface. Doesn't let you do anything else until you click that cancel button. That's bad because that means my whole application is stopped, right? Until I do this. And then I have control back. It releases the first responder, right? And I'm back to my regular application, okay? So again, is it good? Should I use alerts? I think sometimes I want to set up alerts for debugging. That's a good way of using alerts. You know why? We don't, especially if it crashes, sometimes you don't get any kind of indication of why it crashed. So I use some kind of alert sometimes, and I kind of keep it in the background, almost like from a debug perspective, and I can pass in whatever I want. So if I was to really customize this show my alert, what I would probably do is ask for me to pass in some kind of message that would go into, instead of message, it would be like a variable that I would pass in here that comes in from the parameter when I make my alert to make it more reasonable. Like there's only one reason why I would make an alert happen, for debugging. That's why I want to show a value. You know, I want to do something like that. That's why I want to use my alert. Questions around this? Show my alert. You can make your own. I think it's cool. Meh. It's not that cool. I mean, at least it gives you a chance to understand how it's done. But notice that there's three parts. One, I create my object. That's the container for my alert. That's the object of the button. I need to create something for the button. How about if I didn't add these two things? What would happen? What if I just didn't? If I just did one of these, can I, you know, comment these out? Right? Can I? And then will it work like by itself? No button. We should check this out and see what the effect is. And I recommend you do that kind of experimentation. So I'm going to stop debugging here and run this again, and then see what happens with my button. Will it run? Will it give me an error? What's going to happen? Do I have to load it up? Right? Uh-oh. Can I click away from this? That's why we need a button. Because otherwise, like I told you, it's a modal window. It'll never close. Right? Please don't do this. It's great for debugging again, but that's it. Okay, let's talk about an action sheet. So we've got an alert, but I want to kind of comment this out for now. Okay, just for now. And I want to set up an action sheet. So let's do the same thing. We'll kind of come on down here. And by the way, now question for you. Should I put this up to GitHub now? Like, what would you do if you're working on this thing? I mean, I've kind of done a feature. I probably should have put it up to GitHub when I first created the project, right? How do I do that? Under source control, again, what I want to do is I want to do a commit. I've changed some files, right? You can see the ones that have been changed or modified. And I want to say something like added, you know, alert, custom alert, right? That's what I've done. I'm going to commit these two files. Am I connected to GitHub? No, I need to make that happen with a remote. So I'm going to go back to GitHub, go to Centennial, right? Inside my Centennial, I want to create a new folder, a new repository equivalent, and it's MAPD124, and then it's less than 3 as an example. And I can also probably put in something like winter 2017 just to make sure it's the same. Enter. I have this link, right? I got this link right here. This is the link from my repository. When I asked you for a link for your repository for assignment 1, and like I said today, I'm going to check you. I'm going to go around and mark you for assignment 1. That's what we're doing today as part of our class. So I want to give you one-on-one feedback, right? I want to see what you did, how you did with your GitHub. Did you do your GitHub properly? Did you work with GitHub? Did you not work with GitHub? How come? Like these are, we can't continue unless you know how to do this kind of stuff, right? All right, so I'm going to copy this link. I'm going to go back to to Xcode, and in source control, what I'm going to do is I want to set up my remote. Okay. How do I set up my remote here? If I go here, you can see that I got switch to branch, merge from branch, configure. Oh, okay, here's my configure. Remotes. No remotes. Add a remote. Call it what you want. Typical name for the remote is origin, right? Origin is just the name for my remote. Here's the address, right? I got it from GitHub. Add remote. I've shown you this before, but some people still don't know. Branches, I'm on a master branch. I could add another branch if I wanted to, if I add another feature, and then merge it in later. For now, I'm just going to press done. Okay, now I'm going to go back to source control, and I want to push to the remote. So push, right? It's going to go to master, the master branch, and click push. It's going to create the branch for the first time. If it doesn't know you, it's going to ask you to log in. Again, this is part of the configuration I probably could have handled earlier. Then it's going to push everything up online. When it says push successfully or good, I can check out GitHub and kind of refresh. And I can see now that I have 2 folders. One that's the Xcode project folder as well as the lesson. And I can go into View Controller Swift and see my code. So all the code that I have in there right now. And I comment some of it out. Questions so far? This is all covering stuff we've done before. I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. So I gotta get rid of this. This is no button. There's no way to cancel my alert. Bad, right? Now we're going to make something else. I'm going to create a action sheet. Action sheets are kind of neat because they actually give us a lot of opportunities to do stuff. So here's my func. We're going to call this, you know, show my action sheet. You can call it whatever you like, right? Same idea as the alert, but slightly different implementation. Okay? So let's take a look at this. again, I'm probably going to use the let keyword to call this something like what I want to create. And now it's an alert controller, so we can call it, we can actually use the same name if I want. It's still a UI alert controller. It's just a different implementation of the UI alert controller class. So let's call this alert controller. Actually, let's call it, just to be nice, action sheet controller. We know what the difference is, right? It's still of type UI alert controller, right? Still the same type. Forgive me, I'm really big here because I want everyone to be able to see what I'm doing. Let's give myself some more space, right? So this is the first part. So first I'm going to declare a variable or a constant of type action sheet, well, UI alert controller. I'm going to pass in some similar things. Notice that I can do this, right? And when I do that, it kind of gives me some default values. I want to replace those default values, right? And I want to kind of I want to set it up so you can see everything on one line, just like I did before. Notice that I put it up here. Again, just a style thing. You might do it differently than me. All right, so I got to replace these optionals, right, with something, or else it's going to be useless to put these in there, right? So the title of my action sheet is going to be something like my action sheet, right, or an action sheet. I would do an action sheet, yay, title. And then the message, right, in my action sheet is going to be something like, you know, first of all, question. If I just do a message in the action sheet, do I need a message? What does a message say? Let's put a message in there. Let's say something. Here's a message. Here's a message. Interesting. And then the preferred style for my action sheet. That's the other thing I wanted to kind of do, right? My preferred style would be if I press dot. You can see that there's two types: alert. We already did that one, and action sheet. These are two UI alert controller styles that we can use. Again, up here, the style was alert because we made an alert, little pop-up. Now I want to do action sheet, right? That's the style that I'm taking on. So it's going to still be an alert, but it's going to take on a different form. All right, so far we're good. I'm leaving this message in here for now. We're going to see how we don't need it, but let's leave it in and see what happens. What I also need from my action sheet, right, is some kind of button, because again, I want to kind of, when I click the button, it goes away, right? So remember, I need to have some kind of button to attach. I need to define it here in code. So I'm going to say let, and we're going to call this the my yes button, right? Here's my yes button, which is equal to, again, the same kind of UI alert action. Here's my UI alert action. And again, I have an option to put in some completions, which I'm going to do, right? I'll talk about this in a second. And just to split it off, I'm just going to reformat it like this and replace some of the values. My title for my button, what's the title going to be? That's the title I put in there. So it's going to be like, yes. Right? Or OK. You can call this the OK button. How about we call it the OK button instead? Just to make sure it's, you know, we know what it is. We can call this OK, custom button. OK. And then the UI alert style, that's very important, right? So again, I want to go dot, and you can see it's cancel. You know, there's different options here, right? So this is the actual button itself. So I want to call it destructive because it's going to basically change something if I click OK. Again, it's just an alert that goes, the style matters because the style of the button, all right? And the handler, we're going to, again, put null or nil, sorry, because we don't have a handler right now. We could, we'll put a handler later on. Those are two things we need, just like these ones. And we need to present the button again. That's really important, right? We'll present the button or the alert. Again, we can use self.present or we can use present. But what I really want to do is I want to do one of these where we present the view controller to present, right? Which is the action sheet controller. That's the view controller. Even though it's a UI alert controller, it's still considered a view controller. And then, is it animated or not? Animated, true. And what do we do on completion? We do nothing, right? So we don't do anything when the button, when everything gets pressed. Oh man, what happened here? How come am I getting a, what have I done wrong here? What? I haven't added anything, right? That's why it's giving me a, hey, warning, Tom, you missed a step, right? The step I need to add is something like action sheet controller, right? Dot add action, right? And you can see that the action I'm going to add is the OK button, right? Now it should make this go away because we're using it. Just takes a second to, when it kind of does the pre-compilation. That's what it's doing. It's just parsing my code again. I find that really slow, by the way. I find that, you know, in Visual Studio or even Android Studio, instant. It knows when the error is gone. Here, you got to be patient and wait. Even with my, you know, 16 gigabyte memory, i7 laptop, you know, whatever, doesn't matter. It's still always the same. I've run it on servers before, still the same. It takes a long time for it to kind of, for the message to clear. So please be patient. All right, let's play. And remember, what I want to do is I want to call it. I didn't call it. I got to call it in here because I want to do it in the same view did appear, right? So the one thing I missed was this. So show my action sheet, which is what I want to do. And let's try this out. So again, once the view loads, if everything goes well, then I'm going to get an action sheet that pops up here. Yay, here's my action sheet. It's a little big to see. Let's go into scale. We'll go to 33% for now so you can see it. Here it is. An action sheet, and here's a message. So this is an optional message you can put in there. Notice that it's a red button. It's a red button because I said destructive, right? It's just the button style. Again, you can modify the button style, and you can go in subclass. And if I press OK, I go back. It kind of hides that little action sheet. That's the difference between an action sheet and an alert. Action sheet pops up from the bottom, right? An alert pops up in the middle of your screen and disrupts you. Action sheets are useful because, you know what? Sometimes what we want to do is get them to do something, modify something, or we want to put in some information. Buttons can be used the same way. Alerts can be used the same way, but they're in the middle of our screen. And sometimes we don't want to use those. Let me just kill this thing. So stop the application running. Let's change this. So again, cancel is one. We saw cancel, right? For show my alert. We saw destructive. What does the other one look like? So destructive and default, right? Default's the other button. Is that the blue button? Right? So one is, see what that looks like when we run it. Okay. So default, again, so you guys know the difference between these things. Right? So blue button, the other one was red button. And let's go back to cancel. So you can see it all at once, right? Because I think it's important to see them all. Run it. Right? One day. There it is. That's different. What's the difference? What's the difference between cancel and what's the difference between destructive and the red button, the other button? Notice how there's a split? That's different, right? Because it's an action sheet. Action sheets can have multiple buttons, right? So can alerts. But the great thing is you want to put your destructive action on top, usually, or something that you want to do here on the top, and then some kind of other action down here, and it'll split the buttons up, which is kind of neat, right? So you want to accept a change that you made. And that's what we want to do. One is accepting a change, and the other one is just canceling, right? Or going back. All right. There's different reasons why the buttons look the way they do, and they also change the UI. All right, so if that's the case, let's think about this. I want to add two different buttons to my show my action sheet, right? Here's my two buttons. So here's there's OK, and let me put in, you know, no, and I'll put this. We'll rename it. So I'll say yes, right, and no, right. So this will be the yes button. And by the way, can I refactor rename? Is that possible? Does that work here? Can I do something like, you know, rename? Well, this is kind of a bug in Swift. So we can't rename still. And it's not available. Even now with our version of Xcode 10, right? Xcode 8, sorry, I'll be okay. When we get to Xcode 10, by then hopefully refactoring will be made. But Xcode 8 won't work. It won't refactor. You can't refactor. You have to rename by hand, which sucks, right? To me, that's a big issue, right? Factoring should be one of the major things you can do in Swift, and you can't. So that's kind of a bug, something that they're going to add in future versions. I know that's something that even the book tells you that it doesn't allow you to refactor, rename. So instead of OK button, we're going to call this the yes button. Yes button. And I got to go and change this again. You can also find and replace. That works. The yes button. And this will be the no button, right? Because we're making a no button. Okay, so different kinds of buttons. I want to kind of add the no button. Oops. I want to add the no button underneath, right? So there's my no button. So 2 buttons I'm adding in, right? And one says yes, the other one says no, right? The no is going to be a cancel, and the yes is going to be destructive, right? Because it's going to actually do something. Remember, we use destructive, the red yes, to indicate that something will change when you agree, right? That's the style that iOS uses. You could, if it's non-destructive, you could also do default, right? The default action. So it might be a friendly destructive, like it's not going to kill anything. And since we're saying yes, we could choose default and we're good. Okay, let's just do this and see what happens. So default and cancel, yes and no, right? The yes button, the no button. Notice that they both have event handlers. We're going to kind of trigger those in a second, all right? And I want to talk about how to do that, right? All right, let's check this out and see what happens. By the way, hotkey for starting off my application. There's yes and no. This is why, we're using default and no. There's the same color, but they're split by a line, right? So this is, hey, this is an action sheet. You want to do something? Yes, I do. No, I don't. So if yes, I do, clears it. And then Command R, right? Builds it again, right? What's the difference between Command R and Command B? Anyone know? Shortcut keys for building and running, right? That's what it is. Building, Command B, running, Command R, right? So I should run your code. No does the same thing, right? Are we clear? Any weird code that you see here? Is there anything that anyone does not understand? Because we can't, if you guys don't understand this part, then we start adding classes and it's going to be a little crazy. Okay, challenge for you guys. I want your help now. I want to, when I click yes, I want a message box to come up, right? That says something like, you did it, right? Yay. And then another one when you say no, boo, something's wrong, right? I want to boo you when you did something wrong, and I want to yay you when you did something right, right? How do I do that? I got to use something in here. The handler is the thing that I can do. Now, there's funny things about the handler. One, I could write it inline, right? I could write it inline. And the other one I could use, these handlers can be used for referring to another function. It's already pre-written, like a named function, so to speak, just like in JavaScript. Let's do the inline way of doing things, right? This again, right from the book. So I'm going to create a handler, right? Need to have a little bit of space here. So here's my handler. Typically what I like to do is kind of put it here like this. Inside the handler, I'm using these curly braces. The first thing I need is action in, right? That's the first thing I want to do, is say that this is an inline action that I want to kind of deploy. It's required, okay? So action in, this is my default event handler, inline event handler, right? And what I want to do is say something like, it's got to do something, all right? So could I, just saying, since I got this little show my alert thing, right? Remember I told you I want to modify show my alert so it makes more sense, right? This doesn't make any sense right now because it's only one thing that I can do. So I want to change this so it takes in a string, right? And the string is my alert message, right? So here's my alert message. And my alert message is going to be of type string, right? So string. And then what I want to do is take my alert message and pop it into there, right? So something like alert message. It's more useful, right? So I'm going to kind of call my show my alert. Let's just get rid of this now. I'm not going to put it here anymore, right? Show my alert. And depending on what the message is, I can do that. Could I also kind of pass in the title so it's more customizable? It might be a good thing to do, right? So my message is second, and I might as well put my title first, just like it is here. So it's title message. So I'll put title message in my parameters. So alert title. And again, it's a string, and we'll put the alert title here. Okay, so alert title. Is this understandable? Instead of cancel, I don't want to put cancel, and let's change this to OK button again, because it's not a cancel. I'm going to just make it so it's OK. So we're going to call this the OK button. This will always be the OK button. Our little message will only say OK, right? Instead of style cancel, we'll make it style default, right? Because we're not doing anything destructive, right? We'll talk about why I'm getting an issue here, by the way. And instead of my cancel button, it's my OK button. Right? And now, why am I getting an alert? Why am I getting a message here? Huh? I'm OK now. Right? That's why I told you. Wait, my friends. Wait until it catches up to me. And then everything is OK. All right, we're good still. So now what I want to do in here in my action is I want to call up my, oh, wait a minute, it's back. What happened? Oh, man, what the hell? You're smarter than I am, right? Alert. Let's go back here. Okay, so what I want is I want to call up this function, right? I want to call my function, which is my show my alert function, and I'm going to pass in a different value. So show my alert. And in my alert, I want to pass in, not my action sheet, show my alert, and I want to pass in inside my alert all the things that I need, right? Which I need these two things, my alert title and my alert message. What are they? I'm not lucky, it gives us some code hinting, right? So when it says yes, right, it's going to be positive. What's the title? Some kind of positive title, and we're going to say something like, yay, you chose right. Yay, you chose well. How about this? Something like that. And we're going to do the same thing with our no button. This is how we think it's going to work. And I want you to tell me if this actually works. So kind of put that in there, right? Instead of my alert positive, we got some problems already, right? Got some problems already happening. Because notice that it says action in and then show my alert, and then we get a problem. And then this one will be negative. A negative answer, boo. Right? You chose poorly. That's what I wanted to do. Why am I getting these errors? What are these errors? Are they errors? Are they phantoms? Are they going to go away? And notice that it points to this little thing here, right? How come? You said I don't need I don't need the self, right? I don't understand. Look, it says fix it. And it says call to method show my alert enclosure. Oh man, what's a closure? Requires explicit self to make capture of semantics explicit, right? What this means is that it doesn't know what the hell I mean by show my alert, right? It doesn't know what this is, right? And it doesn't know what it is because show my alert has been declared in this context, which is the context of my view controller, right? My view controller context, that's the self context, right? When you say self or this in other languages, that's what it is. Here, because we're using these little curly braces, right? Like this, we've actually declared a new anonymous function. And because it's an anonymous function that we're calling, show my alert does not exist inside that context. And so I have to use that. The quick fix is to use self. There it is. And I might as well put that in here. And if you don't, it won't work. These are required. Okay, yes and no. And then let's press play and see if it works. And then we'll put it up to GitHub. Okay, little alert comes up and I click yes. Hey, you chose well. Okay, it's gone, right? Wouldn't it be nice if I had a little button and the button pulled up the action sheet? Now I need something on my UI. Right now there's nothing on the UI. It's just like me popping up alerts, right? When the first thing was. So wouldn't it be nice if I had a little button so it didn't start on, my action there, right? So I'm going to get it away from doing this. Again, we're modifying everything step by step so you understand everything. By the way, does anyone not understand what we've done so far? Right? It's very simple, but sometimes we need to do this very, very slowly because people don't get it. All right, so show my action sheet is something that I'm doing when my view did appear. But what I want to do instead of, I want to make a little button that you can tap. And when you tap it, it'll pull up the alert. You make your choices that way. All right. Now, is there a difference between that, what we've done so far, right? I'm just saying, right? Is there a difference and putting a button in here? Is there something that would cause me to have a problem? Like here, I'm showing my action sheet. Would it be a real problem, you think? I made a button. A little bit of review from last week. For me to make a button, again, I'm going to kind of sort down here and show button, and from the other week as well. Have a button, put it in here, right? And I'm going to kind of, this is, action button. We'll call it the action button. So I'm going to kind of double click here and action button. My action button, right? Because it's going to do an action. There it is. I'm centered it in the exact screen, right? And what I want to do is I want to create somewhere in my view controller, and maybe near the bottom, because I've done all this extra work, right? What I want to do here is way down here in the bottom, just before my last curly brace, I want to create that IB action, right? So I'm going to create, kind of control drag. So I'm going to create the action, right? So it's not an outlet, it's an action. And then it's not of any, it's that UI button. And inside here, I'm going to call this the action button touched event, right? So action button touched, right? Touch up inside, right? That's correct. Sender is the argument. I like that. Connect. Yay, we've got a little action button here. And then what I wanted to do, and we'll leave this thing up here, but I want to take this, I show my action sheet, cut it, and kind of go all the way down here and paste it in here. Should I have any issues by doing this? Would you recommend I have an issue? See what happens. So again, I'm going to build, Control B or Command B. Right, so build's okay. Build, no problem. And Command R runs. Right, that's different than a build. Builds and runs. All right, so my action button. Click it. My action sheet comes up. No problem. I click yes. Everything's good. And now I click my action button again. It comes up. Click no. Everything's bad. Right. Press OK. Yeah. So I can test both. That's why I did that button, because otherwise I'd have to run the thing over and over again. Pain in the ass. So actually, it's good. And a lot of times what we see is there's some kind of button or something on our toolbar at the base, wherever it is, where you want to do something. You want to set something to one way or the other, change language, confirm. It's basically a confirmation that you want something to be done. That's what I use action sheets for usually. I want to confirm that you're doing one thing or the other. Usually there's some kind of destructive change that's going to happen, and sometimes there's no destructive change whatsoever. Cool. I think we're good to know, right? Okay, here's where the fun starts. This is the easy stuff, right? So let's stop debugging here. We got a little bit of an action button. Now, going back up here. Do I need these two methods, right? These are events, right? Do I need them? No, that's the answer. Unless I'm doing something there, get rid of them. Because all I need is to do this stuff, right? Let's get rid of this. We'll close this off. We'll look at my solution here, which is on the left. Here's my view controller Swift. Notice this is all the stuff we've got here. This is a great time to put things up on GitHub, right? Because I did a couple changes. Maybe I could have done an extra commit. So I'm going to click a commit. I'm going to look at my stuff that I've changed. I've changed my main storyboard, and I added an action sheet and something. So I'm going to say added button and action sheet. That's really what I did. I'm also going to click this little button for push to my remote into the master branch and click commit to files and push. And now you have everything on GitHub. Okay. Now, and after this, I'm going to leave you with something I want to try and do. What I want to really do is when I click, I want to click one of these buttons. So right now I have these two buttons, my yes button and my no button. Maybe I can add another button in there. First of all, question, does everyone understand this, what this does? If you don't understand this, you need to go study your, basic, I don't know what I'm going to call it, kind of an inline function. It's called an inline function. JavaScript calls it an anonymous function. Sometimes in C# we call it delegates, right? It's actually a delegate. A function delegate is what it is. Either way, what it is it's kind of like a little function that has no name that does something. That's what this event handler is. Now, I could use a named handler here. Instead of like this, I could just replace everything that's in the curly braces to a named function, and the named function would trigger instead of this. Yeah, you agree? Or, quite curious, do I still have to do action in and do something like this? Because this is kind of what I'm doing, right? I'm kind of triggering my show my alert, but I'm passing in a couple of parameters. What if I just want the handler just to be that? Is there a way of doing that? Like putting the handler in there and, you know, is there a way of cutting this down? Like an example would be this. If I took this code, we'll come back to this for a second. So get out of this. So instead of my handler being this style, I want to make it, so I want to call this the yes button handler. So we'll call something called yes button handler, right? I don't have the yes button handler yet, but let's suppose that I'll put it in up here somewhere. A function yes button handler, right? Now we're defining it. And my yes button, here's my yes button handler, right? Here's my function. Oh, I already got an error, right? What's the error say? It says cannot convert value of type blah blah to expected argument type of type blah blah. How come? Could I do this? Yes button handler, right? And the answer is no, because it gives you the same thing. Cannot convert type of open bracket close bracket anonymous function to expect argument of type UI alert action with return void. What's the difference? What is it saying here? What are these? What is this error? How do I fix that problem? Can I fix that problem? You have to accept the parameter UI alert action in the method. So in the method, right? So first of all, do I have to do something over here? Do I have to return void? Is that what I have to do? Is that what I'm doing? Is that what this returns? Is that the return value? Right, when I do this, is that return? Well, it still doesn't do it, right? Well, no, I got a problem. Oh, no. What does it mean? Use of deprecated use type void. Oh, man. What's the new type? Is it nil? Is it what? So let's try this out, right? Is it this? Right? Is that going to be it? Okay. And, oh, no. What happened? This doesn't fix it. Let's just do this again. Right? So that's not the thing. So it says, again, cannot convert type void. That's what this is, right? To expected argument of type void. And this is a call. This actually is a function call. Whenever I use the open bracket, close bracket like that, I'm actually calling this function. I'm calling it, right? So what do I do here? How do I fix this problem? Same thing, whether I call it or not. I'm making a reference to this function. Anybody have an idea what to do? Anonymous function, no problem, but I want to make a handler, can't figure it out, right? So again, you'd be forgiven to think that, like other languages, you can just make a reference just simply like this, and it would work. Even if I made it void, it wouldn't matter, right? Even if I start writing the code, right? So even if I wrote the exact same code, like I just did one of these, so let me undo for a second. Actually, no, I'll redo. Let's just go back here. So let's just take this self show my alert. I'll take this whole thing off, this part, and I'll grab this. Sorry. So I won't use the action in for a second, okay? And I'll come back up here and do this, right? So does something, right? Returns void. I don't need to put explicitly. I don't have to put return void if it doesn't do anything. That's just explicit, right? To return something, I need to have a return statement. I don't have a return statement right now, but this still something has a problem. Can I cast it as something else? Is that possible? Can I cast it as weird, void? I mean, that's what it's asking me for. Some kind of. Could I cast it? Is there something I can do to this thing to fix it? I'm gonna get you guys to look it up on the break, right? There is a way, but this isn't the way. Okay. Again, the default that we had before. If I was undo, get back to what we had. Right? Nice idea, Tom, to do it this way. That's what you should tell me. But Swift doesn't handle it this way at all. Right? This anonymous function that we have in here, this part here, the reason why we have action in, it really tells us that this action is inline. To make it quick, what I could do is just do what I'm doing, right? But sometimes what I want to just recommend, instead of an unnamed handler, what if I want my handler to handle two different things. Same thing, right? And I want to use some kind of sender, same kind of idea of a button. Do I create an outlet, a custom action? How do I do that? Is there a way of creating a custom action that handles both, that has a sender argument? Is there a way of doing that? We got to look at this, because when you look at the alert action in the first place, if I was going to do another one of these, right? Remember when we created it, if I go let, my crazy button is equal to an UI alert action, right? And if I open up the bracket and if I choose this one, right? Notice that my UI alert action is the type, right? The UI alert action, and it returns void. So. What I want to do is, it's got the handler itself. It has to return void. We know that. That was correct. But the UI alert action, it's passing in a value. It's passing in this self, right? That's what it's passing in. Self, in this case, which is in this closure, has to somehow be passed in there. If I accept this, notice it says it's an optional. I could accept this, right? UI alert action and then void, right? That's the anonymous type. There is no name type here, right? And it's returning void. So this same idea, notice that it's included in these. There's two brackets here, right? For my alert handler. One is this bracket here that kind of closes this off. And then there's this bracket here that does this, right? Almost like a self-contained action. So could I, and if I push this as optional, could I write this a little differently? Could I do something like this inside my brackets, right, as an example, then call my little button. Let's say, for example, I wanted to call my something else, my show my alert, right? Show my alert. Could I do that? Could I go show my alert there? That's calling itself. We don't want that. Could I do show my alert? Is that possible is what I'm saying. So I go show my alert. And then inside there, pass in self, because that's what I want to do. Could I do this way? Is that possible? Is that going to give me an error? Like, if I know what I want, do I need to put my curly braces in there? And if I want to, could I just do something like this, where I pass in a reference to the show my alert method that I've just made? Is that possible? Oops, I need an extra one. There we go. Is that okay? Or is it still going to give me my issue? Okay. See? String that returns nothing to expected argument type UI alert action that returns void. Two different types. There is a way of doing this. We need to convert somehow. But where do we do it? Do we do it here, or do we do it somewhere up here in my show my alert? That's the question for you guys. All right, let's take a short break. When we come back, right, I'm going to talk about classes. And what I want to do is I want to make a simple class, talk about how to create your own custom class. And then what I want to do, I want that class to invoke, this is weird, I want that class to invoke an alert in your UI view controller, right? How do I do that? Right, because that's different, right? If I'm invoking an alert, well, my class has nothing to do with my UI view controller. We have to talk about how to do that, right? Which is more complex. And why am I doing it? Because you're going to need to make your own custom classes here, right? And if you haven't done it already, especially for handling common things like common events, like right now I'm making my own UI alert actions. But what if I was to create my own custom class that did all that for me, right? So I can make my own UI alert action type class that does all this stuff, and I don't have to do all this, all the heavy lifting on my own. We'll talk about that. So let's take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to do that. And after that, I'm going to sit down with each of you. All right.